This game was released in 2019. You can still buy it, download it, and even play it, but it'll never be the same again. A ship stranded in time as supplies dwindle and an otherworldly mist rolls closer day by day. The stage is set, the audience has arrived, now presenting the bizarre VR experience known simply as The Under Presents.
Distinguished guests.
The Under Presents is something along the lines of Sleep No More, the immersive retelling of Macbeth that first swept through the New York theater scene a decade or so ago. It's an extremely ambitious mishmash of theater and the weird kind of gameplay and storytelling opportunities that are only possible with VR. The game has both single and multiplayer sections, and at one point, players were able to log in and interact with live actors, so no two sessions were ever the same. These performances were designed to enhance the main single-player story, flesh out characters, and build upon the world, and make The Under Presents into a completely one-of-a-kind adventure that unfortunately won't be experienced in this same way ever again. June 2022 was your last chance to feel the magic for yourself as originally intended by the developers at Tender Claws, as it seems the actors have put on their final performance. Of course, a game like this can't be active in this way forever. Multiplayer servers eventually dwindle down to become ghost towns, and the actors inevitably go on to perform in other shows. But it does make me a bit sad to learn about this game only years after its last production. I don't even have a VR headset, but still. The game can still be completed in single player, there are pre-recorded performances to attend, and you may still even occasionally bump into another player. But for those of us who never got the chance to play The Under Presents, here's what you missed out on. Central to each player's journey through The Under is the mysterious MC, a powerful god who was bored one day, so he decided to craft his very own world and fill it with odd locations and curious characters, bringing in performers and designing set pieces for his own amusement. Before his intervention, The Under was dark and filled with mud, which he learned how to shape into props and environments. Eventually, he got bored of being alone, so he found a way to communicate with our world, the Over, and bring unsuspecting people into The Under to take part in his shows. This was slightly more entertaining, but the MC still thought something was missing. It was only after discovering a mysterious mask and a set of golden rings worn on the wrists that the MC was able to pull entire events into The Under and preserve them in a self-enclosed time loop. He acts as the player's off-kilter guide throughout the game, and his most intricate creation and the main story in The Under Presents is called Timeboat. Timeboat is set in a ship trapped in a bottle and is split into 3 acts and an epilogue for players to explore. This is the single-player portion of the game and features a series of interwoven puzzles and stories about the various characters aboard the Aikman, a research vessel that's been struck by disaster. Here, players learn to manipulate time loops to fully explore the stories of these characters and solve puzzles to determine their futures. The other part of the game is set in a multiplayer hub with a main stage that was often populated by live performances up until 2022. These help to pad out the lore of The Under itself, the MC's motivations, and all the strange things that go on there. Here, the developers really wanted players to question whether they were engaging with a recorded NPC or a live performer, and use the unique interactivity offered by VR as a means to do this. There's magic in The Under, which allows players to use masks to conjure potions by snapping their fingers and performing a series of hand gestures. The actors had access to more tools and were able to give the characters special powers, spawn items, and even teleport themselves and players around The Under. One of the characters you could run into on your journey was a tour guide who would transport players to different locations and perform short skits as part of an interactive tour. There was also a game show host who introduced players to a game called Don't Push the Button. where, well, you better not push that button. If someone did, they'd get put in a birdcage hanging above the stage. Basically, every time you'd log on when actors were around, something weird would happen. And from all the footage and reviews I've seen, they were very creative in their efforts to involve players in all sorts of weird shenanigans. At one point, there was even a run of a 40-minute performance based on Shakespeare's The Tempest that you could buy tickets to and attend just like a normal play. This experience, though, was anything but normal. The actor playing the character Prospero enlists the help of the audience to act as his guiding spirits and help bring him back to life. And I think it's important to note that all of this took place during the earliest parts of the pandemic, where people were looking for connection and alternative ways to take part in their usual hobbies and social activities. Unfortunately, VR never really took off, as some claimed it would, and has remained a pretty niche market even as headset prices have decreased. But developer Tenderclaws was never afraid to experiment with weird tech. Before the Under Presents, they dove into AR with a virtual pet game called Tender, experimented with VR in the virtual reality series, and even created a peculiar sport called Tumball. Most recently, they released Stranger Things VR back in December 2024. It's really anyone's guess what they might come up with next, but I sure do hope they stick around a little while longer and maybe create something for us flat screeners in the future, because I'd love to be able to experience their creative worlds firsthand. And I'd love to hear from you if you were ever able to take part in the Under Presents, especially back when it had live actors. I still can't believe that I'm only now hearing about this game, and I'm sure those of you that have played have some quite bizarre stories from the whole experience. And it's stuff like this that convinces me 100% that video games are the absolute best form of entertainment.